Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be working some just gentle hip mobility, spinal mobility, and a little bit of light core. I want to get some anterior core, getting into the quads, front of the hips, lower core, and then some good glute activation as well. So we'll be sprinkling that in. So let's get started. So starting on our back, we're going to get into our crocodile breath, making our nice big C shapes with our hands. Hands going below the rib cage, above the hip bone in a nice meaty section. Thumbs in the back, index fingers. Taking a nice inhale breath into the nose. Exhale out through the mouth. As we exhale, feel that belly drawing up and in towards the spine. You kind of think of that belly button as a thumb, like it's slowly pressing down into your spine, pressing that low back into the floor on that exhale. Inhale, we're allowing that breath to expand, pushing out and away into the thumbs, index fingers, and palms. I want to feel that breath moving to the belly, into the low back, out through the sides. Think like a crocodile blowing up a balloon. With each inhale, we're trying to inflate that abdominal wall a little bit wider. Each exhale, full expression, trying to get all as much of that air out as possible. And then inflating that next round. And as you're getting into those breaths, start to take notice of the symmetry of how does that breath expand into that right hand compared to the left hand. Does it move better on one side, especially in the thumbs and out to the sides? Belly tends to move well, but that low back space, we might find that it doesn't move as well on one side compared to the other. And I want to have that as an assessment point. Let's try to keep, we're going to move shift into our shin box position. But I want to continue to have that nice inhale through the nose, expanding that abdominal wall out on that inhale breath, exhale, feeling that navel draw into the spine. Getting into shin box, I'm on my left side shin box. Left hand is coming down the ground to the floor. Elbow is spiraling out and away, feeling that shoulder blade down and back. Nice open lifted chest, tall spine. Also, the weight is shifted so that our weight is on one hip and that back hip is actually off the floor. I don't want to try to sit that hip down. I want to let it be free. And we're going to start with just our simple knee openers here. As we inhale into that crocodile breath, exhale, drawing navel into the spine. We're going to lift that back knee nice and slow up to the ceiling, squeezing into it. Inhale, bringing it back down to the floor. Keep our movements nice and slow with our breath. Part of the reason I want to go slow is I want to make sure that we're maintaining a still upper body. I don't want my shoulders to move and rotate as I open up my hip. I'm really trying to isolate just this hip. If I move my shoulders, I can get a lot more movement out of the hip without actually moving the hip a whole lot more. So see, what is that range that I can move just the hip by itself? And we'll just slow transition across to the other side so that we can compare. Get right knees now forward, right palm rounded, elbows spiraled out, back shoulder, tall spine, weight is shifted so that back hip is free. Inhale into our crocodile breath, exhale, drawing navel into spine. So we slowly lift that knee up to the ceiling. Inhale, bring it back down. Now notice, is this hip tighter or restricted? You have less range of motion, or you have more range of motion, but less tight. Generally, one side will have a little bit better range of motion than the other. So I want to have my assessment, my spidey senses to my assessment turned on so that I can really get a sense of how do they both feel. My left hip is tighter and more restricted than my right, but it's not by much. I have decent mobility here, but it is a little bit limited on this side. Switch back to our other side, nice slow transition. Now, with our weight shifted, getting packed shoulder, tall spine, that back hip is free. We're gonna play with that movement of that back hip. Inhale that breath, feel that breath drop into that back hip like it's a bowl. Feel that weight draw it down to the floor. See if that hip can reach the floor. Exhale, we're lifting it up, moving that hip forward and scooping the tailbone into it to feel that nice stretch through the front of the hip. Inhale, feel that hip descend. I don't want to shift my weight back to push that hip down. Keep my weight forward. Feel that hip reach to the floor, then easily lift up, reach, move forward and scoop into it. Get a little different angle here just so you can see. Reach back, comes up, ankles forward, and then scooping into it to really feel how does that juicy stretch feel through the front of the hip. The more extension you get in this hip, the more you're going to feel that glute engage and fire up in the back. Transition across to the other side and do the same thing. Get rounded palm, spiral elbow, packed shoulder, tall spine, back hip is off the floor. Inhale, fill that bowl, back bowl up, feel it load down to the floor. Exhale, it lifts up, reaches forward and scoops lightly. Again, tighter left hip. Notice if one side is tighter than the other side. And if one side will be tighter. Everybody has some level of imbalance. So the goal is to kind of notice the imbalance, move into it so that we can try to get the imbalance to be a little bit more even. Again, as we're scooping into it, want to feel that nice juicy stretch through the front of the hip. And then can you start to feel that glute tightening up, contracting, firing. We're going to switch back to the other side. We're going to do that same breath into that back hip bowl. Exhale, lift and scoop into it. But now we're going to add our reach with rotation. So you can imagine we got a piece of bread, sharing that bread with our buddy off in the corner. Reach. Inhale, we're bringing it all the way back into that bowl. Exhale, lift. I want to lock in that scoop first. I want to get that full extension, as much extension in that back hip first, and then continue to spiral as we spread palms, spiral palm up to the ceiling, and work to extend that elbow. We'll see how far can we get our fingertips reaching away from that back knee and right to the floor. Inhale, unwinding it all. Exhale, scoop, reach. Do the same thing on the other side. Again, get into that grounded palm, spiral elbow, pack shoulder, tall spine, weight shifted. Inhale into that back bowl. Exhale, lift, scoop. Again, lock that back hip in first. And then nice reach with rotation. Spread those hands, spiral the palm up to the ceiling and work to extend the elbow fully. And then how far can those fingertips extend to the wall? Inhale, bringing it all the way back into that back bowl. Exhale, lift Again, I want to make sure we're locking into that scoop, that juicy stretch on the front of the hip, fired up glute first, and I want to maintain that as I rotate. The more I maintain that, the more traction I'm going to draw into that stretch from the front of that hip into the obliques, getting into the spine. I can get a little bit of nice stretch up into the shoulders as well. Bring it back across to the other side. Now we're going to get into our side body. So hand that's been on the floor is going to come off the floor, forearm flush with the ceiling. Still inhaling into that back pelvic bowl. On the exhale, lift and scoop. Might find it's a little harder to get that full scoop from this position with that hand off the floor. So just kind of scooping into it actively as much as you can, again, getting into that hip. Then exhale, continue to exhale as we reach down through the opposite hip and lift up through that elbow like you're trying to touch the ceiling. Inhale, softening the elbow, breathing into that back bowl. Exhale, scoop, plant through the opposite hip as you lift that elbow as high as you can, like you're trying to touch the ceiling. Something I want to try to avoid on this movement is as I'm lifting through this other side, I don't want to drop my opposite shoulder. I don't want to reach this shoulder down. It may drop a little bit, but I largely want to make sure I'm getting long on this side. I don't want to make that long by shortening the opposite side. Slow transition across to the other side. Doing the same thing. Bring arm up, forearm flush with the ceiling. Inhale into that back fold. Exhale, lift and scoop. Again, you might notice, and it's even tighter, so much harder to do on one side than the other side. That's a part of our assessment that we want to take notice of. This side, this entire side of my shin box, tighter. I feel it tighter in my hip. I feel it tighter in my right side low back. So as I inhale into that bowl, exhale, scoop, opposite hip plants as I lift that elbow up to try to touch the ceiling. Inhale, softens, filling up that back bowl. Exhale, scoop, get as much of that back hip scooped and locked in as possible. Then continue to reach down and up, hip into that elbow. And again, I want to try not to drop my opposite shoulder to try to get that elbow higher. See if I can keep shoulder normal height as I lift up and try to touch that ceiling. This side is a tighter, it's just tighter than the other side. A little bit looser just after going through some reps with breath. Bringing it back across. Now we're going to get into our folds. Change our folds up a little bit today, but we're going to work through the knee. I'm going to think of the knee as the arrow. So I want to have my sternum square to my knee and my hands square to my shoulders. Nice inhale as I exhale, keeping that nice tall spine, hands sliding straight through that knee. Seeing how far can I get comfortably. Inhale, bringing it all the way back up. Breathe, fill up that back pelvic bowl. Exhale, lift and scoop. And then sternum reaching right through that knee. As I reach through that knee, I want to keep that back hip actively scooped. So I want to lock in that back hip and then continue to reach. Continue to keep that scoop active as I fold, reaching through that knee. Once we do 5 on this side, we're going to slowly transition across to the other side, doing the same thing. So again, inhale into that back pelvic bowl, exhale as it lifts, scoops, feel that locked in stretch, sternum is square with our knee, both hands through. Now notice how and where is this side either tighter or not as tight as the other side. My left hip is generally tighter. My right low back is generally tighter. Again, these are two issues that are paired together based on 5 knee surgeries. So as I get into this side fold, it's harder to stay square. I have to work a little bit harder. I'm a little more restricted. That's a normal pattern for me that I'm constantly working to bring better balance to. Because when I don't work on it, I lose more and more range on one side and the imbalance grows. So it's not that I'm going to be in perfect balance one side to the other. It's that I'm trying to maintain as much balance as I can, knowing that there's going to always be a little bit of natural imbalance. Now we're going to start going back and forth through from one side one side folds to the other side folds. I'm going to still kind of keep my ankle reaching through the knee. Nice slow exhale, reach, inhale, then bring it back. Nice exhale. Inhale as I transition across. So then I'm ready for exhale. Other side fold. And going back and forth. Again, keep that awareness to how does it feel different on one side compared to the other. Where do you feel tightness, tension, restriction? Do you feel it in the back hip? Do you feel it in the front hip? Do you feel it in your low back? Do you feel it in your shoulders? Maybe you notice it with your inhale breath on one side, and it's not in that same, you don't feel it in your breath on the other side. All of them are very relevant assessment points. It can be very helpful when you have a consultation with me, especially if you're dealing with some kind of chronic pain issues. Now, as we're going back and forth, we're going to start to open up our shin box, letting that back knee slide open a little bit more. Continuing to get into that nice fold. We don't need to stay quite as square with the knee at this point. We could think more. I'm just kind of exploring what does one position on one side feel? How does that change in my hip feel? Is it tighter on one side than it is on the other side? And we'll get a good number of reps on this. Like this flow, doing 10 up to 20 reps, especially early in the day before getting out and moving. It's such a great way to mobilize the hips, get them coated with synovial fluid, get them moving well. It's a nice prep for the day. With each one, we're continuing to slowly open up that back leg more and more until we get closer and closer to what we would consider a yoga class pigeon pose. But I am not going to be overly concerned with that end range of the pose. I'm more concerned with where can I find interesting positions on one side where, oh, it's a little tight and restricted there, but it feels good and juicy. Does it feel the same way on the other side? All right, we come back to our starting point in shin box. And now we're going to get into our first little core, really kind of glute activator, shin box to knees. So always shin box to knees. If it's first part of the day, I want to make sure it's not painful on the knees. So we use hands to guide up. Shin box to knees, we're pressing through both knees to lift the hips off the floor. I have one hand in the back, one hand in the front to start off, just to ease my way up. Make sure that that doesn't hurt at the knees. Once I'm at the top, we can get a little bit of a scoop in order to feel that stretch through the front of the hips. Then we'll use the hands to ease back down. go across and do the same thing on the other side, because I want to make sure this doesn't hurt both sides before we actually get into our activation. So again, one hand behind, one hand in front, easing up to the knees, making sure it doesn't hurt, scooping into it, feel that stretch. If the knees are sensitive, if it's level 1, level 2, slight discomfort, continue to use your hands. Think of it like you're just grooving the movement in. I don't want that one level 1 to level 2 to ramp up to anything higher. If it does, you need to back off this movement and skip it. If you're able to do this without pain or discomfort, we can work without hands. Driving through both knees, lift and actively scoop that tailbone into it, find that stretch. And now on the way down, I don't want to just drop and plop. I want to think about that tailbone. See how far can I reach my tailbone back without touching the floor. In order to get more reach, I'm going to counterbalance with my hands by reaching forward. I'm trying to slide that hip bone back as far as it'll go before I touch the ground. And then from there, drive through the knees to pop back up. So I don't want the hips going straight down to the floor. I'm trying to get my hips to slide back on the floor. The more I get those hips to slide back, the more you're going to feel that eccentric stretch in that glute. You should feel like that a little bit of like, almost like a burning in that glute from that muscle working. Do a good 5 on this side. We can switch to the other side. So other side, same thing. Nice drive through both knees. Scoop that tailbone at the top. Feel that nice stretch. Counter reach with the hands as we slide that hip bone as far back as it will reach. Feel the stretch in that glute. Once you tap the floor, we're kicking it. We're driving through the knees, scooping up. Notice if it's harder on one side. One thing to notice is, are you able to tap the floor without flopping? Are you able to reach back to the same amount on one side as you can on the other? One side a little limited in its range of motion. If it's limited in range of motion, that's going to be a mobility deficit on one side compared to the other side. My right hip actually feels a little tighter and more restricted. It's harder to get as far back on this side than it is on the other side, which is interesting because it's the front of the left hip that's usually the tighter hip, but prevents my right glute from being able to get full length. So both right glute and left and front of left hip are tight together. All right. We're going to come into our quadruped position now. So spreading hands wide, grounding palms, extending elbows fully without locking, tucking the toes in the back. I'm just going to get into those toes first. So see how much can you tuck the toes, especially the big toe. On our inhale, we're going to lightly rock forward. On our exhale, we're going to let the hips sink back to the heels. I specifically want to feel that weight load into the ball, into the big toe joint, big toe, arch of the foot. Inhale, brings us back forward. Exhale, let the hips sink to the heels. I want to feel that big toe start to mobilize, get some stretch. Feel that stretch lightly into the arch of the foot. As we exhale, sinking back, imagine you have a tail and start to turn that tail lightly up to the ceiling as you sink back. Should give you a little bit more, feel a little bit more load and stretch in that foot. turn the heels out in a way so that you can tuck underneath as much as you can out to the pinky toes. You do the exact same thing. Inhale as we lightly rock forward. Exhale as we feel those hips sink to the heels. And lightly turning that tail up to the ceiling. Feel that stretch at the joint that all, lateral toes into the lateral arch of the foot. Inhale brings us back forward. Exhale. Each one, see if you can sink into it a little bit deeper. Also notice that this is tighter on one foot compared to the other foot. Different tension patterns in your foot, whether it's at your big toe, out to the pinky toe, middle arch or lateral arch. If it's different on the right foot compared to the left foot, that is significant in your gait mechanics. So it's something that we want to take notice of. All right, we're going to come back to our starting point. Toe with the big toe primarily tucked, heels kind of straight up to the ceiling. We're going to get into our breath and we're going to work pelvic tilts. So inhale, we're going to let that breath fill up the belly. Belly drops down, pelvis tilts to the floor. We get a big sway in our low back. Exhale, drawing the navel in and scooping into it. Focusing just on the pelvis. So I'm not letting this movement go up into my shoulders. I'm not doing a full cat-cow. I'm just doing pelvic tilts. I want to see how much can I scoop, getting into this low back, stretch a little bit on the exhale. Inhale. How much can I fill that belly? How far can my pelvis tilt forward without going into pinch or pain in the low back? I want to make sure we are avoiding any kind of pinch or pain. Each one, hopefully you're feeling that you're getting a little bit more range of motion, getting a little bit more mobility. It feels good and juicy. And now we're going to start to let this move up the rest of the spine. So as we scoop, we're going to continue to scoop. Let that movement go further up. As it gets to the upper back, we can press through the palms. Feel that stretch through the middle of the shoulders. We're going to let it go on top of the head. And from here, we can try to touch our tailbone and our forehead at this imaginary point in the middle. Actively scooping, actively reaching that forehead. See if you can feel your core light up on fire. And we're going to inhale. Pelvis is going to start turning to the floor. Fills up that belly. Slowly drops this chest to the floor, and then the head comes out of the So I want to think of this more like a wave that is generated from the tailbone and slowly the spine, so that each vertebrae moves one at a time, and the head moves last. And you feel each vertebrae moving segment by segment up the spine from the tailbone to the head. As we go from scoop, exhale, into inhale, feel that belly open up to the floor, chest drops to the floor, and the head comes up. Good. So now we're going to come off our hands. We're going to come into a tall kneel. I want to keep the toes tucked underneath for right now. We're going to come right back into breath and pelvic tilts. So nice inhale into that belly, allowing the pelvis to tilt forward, and getting that sway in the low back. And then exhale, we're drawing that navel up and in as we scoop the tailbone. The more I scoop, I want to feel that. See if I can feel some light stretch through the front of the thighs, front of the hips, and I feel that glute, those glutes contract. Full hip extension will mean full glute contraction. By definition, the more extended I get my hips, the more contracted I'm going to get my glutes. Notice that there's tightness, tension in that low back. Again, I want to avoid tension or pain. So now we're going to start working a little bit of range, moving our hips towards our heels. But before we do that, let's go ahead and bring hands back to the floor. Let's kind of lightly explore that range of motion and make sure that the knees, again, are not going to be an issue. So inhale, as I'm on my hands and my palms. Exhale, we're rocking the hips as far back to the heels as we can go. Seeing, can we touch the heels, or is there restriction either in the knees or at the feet that prevents us from getting the hips to the heels? Inhale, coming forward. If you're able to get the hips to the heels, exhale, we can start to slide the hands back. Able to feel the weight of your hips on your heels with the toes tucked. So if you're able to get into that position and this is not painful on the knees, then we can come back up to our tall kneel, and we're going to start working our pelvic tilts, reaching to our heels. If that movement was painful on the knees, then you're advise you to skip this part. I don't want you to get into a position that's going to irritate the knees. So from here, we're coming back to our pelvic tilt with our breath with pelvic tilt. As we inhale, filling up that belly, pelvis tilts forward. Now I want you to think of that, your tailbone, your sacrum is a palm, your tailbone are the fingers at the end of the hand, and you're going to turn that hand and you're reaching it to your heels. So as we inhale, pelvis tilts, that hand starts to reach. We're continuing to anteriorly tilt, reaching back, finding the hips to the heels. Once we find the hips to the heels, we exhale, we start to scoop. As we scoop, I want to see if find that scoop till that will pull us back up to tall. Then inhale as we scoop back, finding that heel. Exhale, scoop as it brings us back to tall. And notice how this movement generates from the hip, from the tailbone, similar to what we were just doing in our quadruped position. It's going to start to make a wave of the spine. Good. So next one, once we get up to the top, I want to hold our scoop. I want to actively scoop into it. Feel that full engagement, that nice stretch through the front of the hips and engagement of the glutes. From here, we're going to do what I call tall kneel lean back. So I want you to be cautious on this. We've explored that range of motion. Don't let it fall backwards on this. So actively maintaining that scooped position as we start to lean back. I don't want to lose that scoop to where we start to arch our back and I'm reaching my shoulders back, but my hips and my rib cage are staying forward. So at exhale, scoop, should feel that core locked in as we lightly lean back. Bring it right back forward. We can do an inhale, feel that pelvis go forward, exhale, scoop, so that we really hold in that scoop as we lean back. Inhale as we come back up, exhale, scoop, and nice lean. This should feel a good long, eccentric stretch through those quads. Active core, getting that good core engagement. We'll go ahead and bring hands back down to the floor. And now we're going to flip over onto our back. So on our back, we're going to lift the feet off the floor. Hips are going to be a little bit less than 90 degrees. I want to pull the knees in a little bit so that the low back stays flush with the floor. Knees themselves can be roughly around 90 degrees. Hands are going to go out to the side with the palms up. And this is where I want to imagine that we're laying in a bed of sand. And we're trying to make this perfect imprint of our upper back, shoulder blades, elbows, forearms, wrists, hands. I'm pressing into the stand in order to make a perfect imprint. I don't want to smear the stand. From here, inhale at the center point, exhale as we let both hips roll towards the right without losing our grip in the sand on the left. Inhale as we bring it back to center. Exhale as we go to the other side. Now, something I want to pay attention to on this. The first one is I want to make sure that as I rotate my shoulders or rotate my hips, my shoulder's not loosening up and coming off the floor over here. If that's moving, then I'm going too far in my rotation. I want to keep grounded shoulders. This is the most important part of this movement, is maintaining the perfect imprint in the sand. The next thing I want to notice, pay attention to, are my knees. When my hips are straight up to the ceiling, my knees are square together. I could sit a table on top of my knees and they'd be fine. And I can put a drink on it and it's not going to spill off. As I rotate my hips, I want to keep those knees square together. If I start to rotate and my bottom knee starts going further out than my top knee, that means my top hip is not rotating. It's actually staying behind and not getting any rotation in my low back. So try to keep those knees square. As you're turning, don't lose that tabletop to the knees as you rotate. Notice the more you keep them square, the more you're going to feel that stretch in the low back. And you might find that that's really hard to do in one direction, more so than the other direction. Going to the right for me is a little more challenging than going to the left, which is surprising because my right side low back is the side that was feeling tight. In other movements, going this way is actually harder. I feel that in my left side low back. Getting a nice little stretch. As we're working into it, my main goals are: one, holding that imprint in the sand and seeing if I can bring that right side and left side into better balance. I'm less concerned about how far I go. I'm not trying to get to the floor. I'm exploring how well I can ground my shoulders and maintain that good lumbar rotation. Go ahead and let both feet flat to the floor. And now we're going to come back into our breaths with pelvic tilts. So nice inhale breath. Fill up that belly. We're going to allow that belly to lift up to the ceiling. Pelvis is going to tilt to the ceiling, giving us a nice big sway in our low back. You'll be able to slide your hands underneath. Exhale. Imagine your belly button is a thumb that is pressing your spine into the floor, flattening it out. Inhale, spine lifts up. Each inhale, see how much lift you can get in that spine with that breath into the abdominals without going into pinch or pain. And on the exhale, how well can you feel that belly button flatten out your spine without pushing into your feet? I don't want to lift the tailbone up in order to press the low back in. I want the feet to stay relatively small, soft, and not pressing a whole lot. Most of this action is coming from that abdominal core around your belly button. Belly button is pressing into the floor. You should be able to do that without a whole lot of engagement of the feet. So now we're going to get the feet involved. I want to have the feet are going to be grounded, heels through the balls of the feet. I want to feel pressure through the ball of the big toe, all the way out to the ball of the big pinky toe. And now we're going to peel your spine off the floor on an exhale. So as we exhale and scoop, we're now going to start to peel the sacrum off the floor. And we're going to see if we can pull each vertebrae one at a time. So sacrum comes up, then the L5, then the L4, then the L3, then the L2. I'm continuing to actively scoop. Again, I want to think of that. My sacrum is the palm of a hand, the tailbone are my fingertips. And I'm trying to turn those fingertips like I'm trying to touch the ceiling with that tailbone. Inhale. We're going to let each vertebrae back down on the floor one at a time. L1, L2, L3, L4, L5. Sacrum. Continue to inhale so that it lifts the spine off the floor. Exhale, belly button flattens the spine and peeling each vertebrae one at a time. Feel that scoop at the top. See if we can feel that stretch through the front of the hips. Again, if I'm able to get that full scoop, and I want to make sure my rib is drawing down and not rising up. If my rib is down and I'm scooping, full hip extension, we should feel good, solid glute activation. After we get about 5 or 6, maybe 10, so I'm going slow. Once we get to the next one, as we get to the top, we're going to stay at the top. And now we're going to bring our breath and pelvic tilts to our hip bridge position. So inhale, allowing that belly to lift to the ceiling, pelvis tilts forward. This is going to give us a big sway in back. That rib cage is now going to stick out. Then exhale, drawing that navel in, scoop, and notice the rib cage starts to drop. And the more scoop we get, the more that glute will fire up. We'll get a good 5 to 10 breaths. Try to maintain the height of your hips throughout. The pelvis is turning and rotating, but I don't want to drop it down to the floor. I want to try to keep it elevated. Inhale, pelvis tilts forward. Exhale, scoop, but don't let that hip drop. If you're able to do that, by the time you get to 5 or 10 breaths, you're going to feel those glutes really light up on fire. Go ahead and let the hips back down to the floor. We're going to make our nice big C shape with our hands. Again, thumbs going into the back, index fingers wrapped around the front. Getting back into our crocodile breath. Nice inhale into the nose. Feel that expansion pressing into the thumbs in the back, palms out to the side, index fingers in the front. Exhale. Again, belly button is a thumb and it is pressing the spine into the floor. And we're trying to expel as much of that air as we can. And then as doing so, allow those hands to cinch down a little bit to create resistance for your inhale. And then immediately inhale. Try to inflate that balloon slowly, but a little bit bigger than each inhale breath. As you inhale, notice shoulders. If you're starting to breathe and the shoulders want to kind of lift up, feel, hold tension, so that as you exhale, allow that tension to relax, allow the shoulders to soften to the floor, allow the elbows to soften to the floor. Inhale, builds up the tension. Exhale, releases the tension. You can go ahead and let the hands drop down to the side with the palms up. Continuing to breathe into that abdominal wall, expanding out like a balloon on the inhale. Exhale, drawing navel all the way in. And on our next breath, we're continuing to get that crocodile breath, but we can allow it to kind of move up into the ribs, chest, mid back, upper back. Same idea. Feel that nice expansion out and away on the inhale, exhale, letting any tension release down to the floor. We start to let that breath move up into the shoulders, into the neck. Feeling it, feel it expand like a balloon, expanding out to the front, side, upper back. Exhale, allowing tension to just release to the floor. And we're going to let that inhale breath start to move down into the pelvic bowl. And the idea here is feel it expand on that inhale. As we exhale, we can even do a little bit of a light inhale, like you're squeezing off the whole pee, the whole poo. Feel that tension on the exhale so that when you inhale, you can intentionally breathe into that tension to feel that tension lengthen and expand down into that pelvic bowl. I still want to try to maintain expansion, that crocodile breath through the abdominals. Feel it expand into the chest and the shoulders as well. See if you can kind of hold expansion in all directions on the inhale. Full exhale, everything clenches down, holds, squeeze that breath out. Now just relax your shoulders, soften your breath, take the focus away from intentional breath. Let your breath kind of normalize. And you can kind of lightly breathe into any tension you feel in the shoulders, the neck, ribs, low back, hips. On that inhale, and then on the exhale, allow that tension to release to the floor. You can spend a few minutes in this breath space, checking in, continue to breathe into tension, relaxing, releasing tension. When you're ready, on your own time, you can open your eyes, very slowly sit up, check in, make sure you're not dizzy or lightheaded before you come up to a stand.